Okay, now that we got our character in a nice little walk cycle, we're going to further clean it up and also make the character walk forward. But in order to have the character walk forward, we must clean up the feet. So go into your graph editor. I am grabbing the left foot, going to translation Z, and I'm going to basically from frame 4, where the foot stops moving backwards and starts to go forward and touches at frame 16. From frame 16 all the way to 32, I'm deleting all the keys in between that. And then I'm going to the top of the key at frame 16, selecting the key, and I'm going to break tangent. Break a tangent, and go to the very last key, and I'm going to linear that key, select the middle one, grab the handlebar here, and also linear that key. Go to the very first frame, linear that one as well. I'm going to go ahead and loop it with post-infinity and pre-infinity just to see how it connects to the next set of cycle. Looks like it goes pretty straight, pretty decently. Oops. We can further adjust that as we go further. But that's what I'm going to do for that foot. And then for the next foot, I'm going to do the same thing, slightly different. So it's going to be from frame 0 all the way to 16. But I'm going to delete the keys in between those, which would be 4, 8, and 12. Go ahead and delete those. Same process. I want to put those in linear. I'm going to break. I can. It should be okay. I'm going to not even break 16, but I'm just going to let it be linear. Keep it linear. I think it was already. Oh, no, this wasn't. The thing about that is I don't want this to happen. That little hitch. I want this to be able to go straight through. So what I'm going to do is just select this, break the tangents, and then. Oh, nope, that's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and break the tangent and sort of match it by RI so to get that straight. And from there, now the feet should cycle pretty evenly between the two of them throughout the whole cycle. So now what we're going to do is just basically copy this information from frame 0 to 16. I'm going to go to edit. You can either go to, I'm going to go to edit copy. And then on my main controller, I'm going to select that, make sure I have display offset on. Turn that on. The other controller underneath should show up. I'm going to select that one, go to frame 0, set a key, make sure there's key set on there. Go to translation Z, because that's what's going to be moving the character forward. And on the timeline, I'm going to right click, go to paste, paste connect. And when I paste connect, the value starts at 0. So it's important that you paste connect or else the character will not start at 0. When I play it, the character goes backwards, which is fine. The foot was actually moving backwards per se on the cycle, so that's why it's going backwards. But I'm going to turn on post and pre-infinity here, or you can go to curves and turn on post and pre-infinity and go to cycle with offset. That's basically what these are right here. Once I do that, the character will continuously to move. But now I need to basically flip these. You can do it one or two ways. You can grab the last key, make sure on frame 16 you see the value. It goes 24. You can just simply type in just 24. Since it's a negative, it'll go back up to a positive. And then you have to just straighten out the linear of the keys again. Or you can grab both keys, go to edit within the curve editor, and you're going to press scale. But your scale settings need to have the value, so it has a negative value on the time scale pivot and the value, so that when you apply, it simply basically scales it, which makes it flip. Don't have all the foot cycled, so he's just skateboarding. And let me show you those values again. So on the scale value keys, you basically just grab both the keys, you hit scale, just make sure your time pivot and your value pivot. You have -1 here and a -1 there. And that is how you get the character to cycle. Oops. One more thing, select all the controllers. Go into your graph editor and you're just going to put basically pre and post infinity on. And I want to have it at 50 frames. So you can just see the character sort of walk in place but move forward while walking. And you can see all the adjustments that need to be made to sort of fix the knees. And you can do this and you'll be able to see a lot of things happening and you'll be able to fix it. But the other thing that you got now is you can control the character moving forward. It's obviously sometimes it's hard to make adjustments on it when it's moving forward at a constant speed. So you can just grab the move all controller, or whatever controller that you are that's moving, and you can mute the the Z translation and any other translation that you need to have. So you just right click and go down to mute selected. Mute all, just basically mute everything. And on this particular controller you don't need anything but the Z, so if you accidentally mute all, it'll be fine. So now the character will just basically walk in place. Okay, so now that we got our cycle and we can move it forward and we know how to mute our characters so that we can work on it when it's not constantly moving forward, now we can go ahead and tackle other aspects of the walk. And I'm going to go ahead and tackle the upper body. Now this one's a little bit more straightforward. Just to make it really simple and generic and transparent, I'm going to go to frame 32. Now for the upper body, a little bit of the same thing, but what I'm going to do is start with the waist first, or the chest first. In this character, the spine's all FK, but if you have a IK spine where it's just one controller, you can utilize the one controller. Here I'm just going to utilize all three at the same time basically. And I'm going to delete everything in between frame 0 and 16. Then at frame 0 actually, I'm going to have the torso go the opposite way of the hips. And just by a little bit, don't need too drastic. I'm going to go -4 in the rotation Y, and then then it's just a 4 in the Y on frame 16. So at 0 I'm at a -4. Then on frame 16 I'm at 4. Then I'm just going to copy the frames at 0 to 32, and now I got my torso going back and forth. Several things to keep note is the head and the shoulders are both spaced. Their parent space are to world. If you look at the shoulders, just select any controller on the shoulder and you'll see that the parent space, oops, oh, it's the FK space is to world. That way if the character moves this and that and the other, the rotation will not be affected. For the walk cycles, it's very important so that you can keep the arms and the head sort of stabilized. You're not constantly fighting the motion of it, you know, back and forth. So here we're going to make it a little bit different now. For the arms, I'm just going to be doing the opposite, where I want to rotate the arm down on Z. Let's see what we got here. So for this one, oops. Let's start on frame 0 first. Let's rotate it on the translation or rotation Z. Rotate it down. So for this particular controller, in order for it not to gimbal lock, I need to rotate it on X through the channel box, and you select on the channel that you want. Middle mouse in the viewport, you can rotate your arm. So the arm on the right side of the character needs to be going the opposite of where the leg's going. So if the leg's going forward, the arm's going to be going back. It's keeping it generic. Then the same thing with the opposite arm. I'm going to rotate it down on Z, then rotate a little bit forward on X. And now you got this sort of kind of motion or movement, and you can adjust the elbows, the forearm to sort of move up a little bit, just give it a little bit of life. Then basically you want to go through frame 4, 8, and 12 with the same thing, but I'm just going to go ahead and delete those keys in between on the shoulders. And might as well just go to frame 16, copy what I have on 0, and now just sort of mirror the pose. So on rotation X, I'm just going to put a negative in front of the number on frame 16, and then do the same on the opposite arm. I'm just going to delete the negative out. So now I got the generic, since it's a robot, looks like a robot, and his hand's going to come out, of course, in a T-pose. Grab that, delete, last, whoops, messed up. So I'm going to grab frame 0 and basically paste that at 32 for the shoulders. And now I got the arm swinging back and forth. And I didn't adjust the, grab this key because I moved it. Frame 32, frame 16. Alright, so now we got the legs and the cycle. I can push the character forward if needed to watch it walk. The arms are swaying back and forth, and right now this, like I said, is very generic, straightforward. So I want to add a little bit of life to the arms, and just basically pendulum it, where I want to just make it sway a little bit more. So on the right arm, as the arm goes forward and reaches 16 at frame 20, I want to push it forward just a little bit, so gravity sort of takes over and it drags just a little bit. Then as it comes back to frame 24, I'm just going to let it sort of stay. Then at 28, I want to sort of kick it back just a little bit, sort of straighten it out. Then at frame 4, I'm going to drag it back just a tad bit. Don't want to overextend it to make it like it's broken, but just enough to put a little bit of life to it. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the opposite arm. When the character is moving forward, or when the arm's coming back, I'm just going to have a little bit of drag. A little bit of a drag. And as it comes forward, a little bit more of a drag back that way. I'll push it up. And then you can copy that same motion that you have on the elbow to the wrist. So when the hand starts coming back, put a little bit of drag that way. As the arm starts coming forward, you can do the opposite. So your arms is basically a FK pendulum, just going back and forth, just to add a little bit of life. You can do that with both hands. And then the other thing you would want to do is just put a little bit of a curvature in the hand. It doesn't have to be anything special or anything unique. This controller doesn't come with default, or does it? No, it doesn't come with default hand poses or anything of that, like in that nature. But you can easily, simple way to do is just grab all the finger controllers. Or I think you can grab all the controllers the way this is set up in the hand. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab all the controllers. I believe, yes, you can grab the X rotation. You can gently move it to get a curvature in all of the hand. Then simply double click on the timeline where your curvature is at in your hand. Right click delete, just delete all the keys and then set another one to reset it. And right now there's no motion or anything. For tutorial purposes, I'm just going to leave it in a little claw position just to have it. And you can pose it. I mean, I highly recommend to pose it into a better looking pose. Doesn't have to be anything spectacular or anything, just something simple. You can do that with both hands. Select all those, double click, delete, set key. And then right there you just have a simple basic walk cycle that you can work with, and then from here you can start fine-tuning all the bits that are that you want to tweak more. If you want to add some overlap into the shoulders, some up and down, but this is just to get the base start of what a walk cycle is, what it can do. Several adjustments I would make are obviously putting the feet first, adding some more up and down on the shoulders, adding the head in, tweaking out the feet so the knees don't pop as much, or try to minimize that as much as possible. And that part I will go into the polish aspect when I make the next part of this walk tutorial.